it's Monday night. I tap that, you know I would. Great cigars, great talk, yeah, it's all good. From the lounge to the show, let's spark up the night. Cigar talk, burn slow, everything's right. Legends and makers, they stop on by, sharing the secrets, the craft, the why. From the rollers to the blenders, they tell their tales. Pair it up with spirits, let the smoothness sail. Wrapper, binder, alright. Flavor notes hit just right. Retro hail, take it slow. Only I tap that cigar show. I tap that, you know I would. Great cigars, great talk, yeah, it's all good. From the lounge to the show, let's spark up the night. Cigar talk, burn slow, everything's right. So cut it, toast it, take that draw. Kick back, relax, break out the humidor. If you love cigars, well now you know. It's the I Tap That Cigar Show. I tap that, you know I would. Great cigars, great talk, yeah, it's all good. From the lounge to the show, let's spark up the night. Cigar talk, burn slow, everything's right. So cut it, toast it, take that draw. Kick back, relax, break out the humidor. If you love cigars, well now you know. It's the I Tap That Cigar Show.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the I Tap That Cigar Show. I'm your host, Kevin from Cigar Prop, and I'm coming to you live from the sunny Gulf Coast of Florida. Joining me, as always, my co-host from the sunny, not-so Gulf Coast of South Carolina.
The upstate.
The upstate, Kerr Viajante of Stogie Road Cigars. Kerr, what's the, it's getting hot down here. It was 104 the other day. What's the temperature?
The temperature right now, as it stands, is 78, but it got up in the it's getting up in the 80s. It's been humid. So even on the way back, we went to Pennsylvania this weekend for the celebration of life for my dad. And when we got down south, and as soon as we entered like North South Carolina, it was like 90 degrees. So it was definitely back into the heat and humidity.
Oh yeah. And people, these new Floridians, what's going on? I've been like, oh, it's so hot down here, and I like the meme everybody's been posting. It's like Florida's just preheating right now. We're still warming the oven up. So give it another month, and it is going to be hot. But whatever.
Is it those folks that that they kind of snowbird it? Like they'll come down in the winter and they'll be like, man, it's so beautiful here, but they never were in Florida like in the summertime.
Oh yeah, no.
Then they make that big decision, like I can live down here. Because when we went to go see Flagler, in St. Augustine, I can't remember what it was. It was like in the off season. It was beautiful. It's like, this is beautiful weather, and then it's like, okay, well, it's time to move Joe in August, and I was like, this fucking sucks. What? This is I'm used to Florida, I know Florida weather, but it still doesn't make it suck any less. Being prepared for it.
Yeah, it's an eye opener for sure. I need another cigar. I just finished.
You need another cigar?
Yeah, I just finished up. I generally don't smoke before the show, because usually I work all, or I'm
Mhm.
busy all day, and then I like to start the show with a cigar from our guest. But I have been smoking a ton of Emami cigars over the last few days, trying to work through their lineup. I just finished up with the Pompeii. I
Mm.
loved it. I did the Komodo last night. I loved it. Um, what
I
do you?
tell
What do
you,
you?
I had his cigars when we got back from PCA, and I think this is a very good and appropriate moment to get into the CigarMedics humidimeter cut and light. And remember, Kevin, with the CigarMedics humidimeter, you'll always know when to smoke them, and you'll always know when to hold them.
That's
So
it.
I'm going to pass it back to you, since you are the host and far more handsome. What are you smoking tonight?
I am smoking the Emami, the Delicioso, which I think the Pompeii was a Bellicoso. Now I'm seeing like the Delicoso or Delicio maybe should have been the Bellicoso, play on words of Delicio and Bellicoso. But I'm not I don't, that wasn't my decision to make, and I am at a perfect 60 degrees with the CigarMedics humidimeter, or
You are
60% humidity, anyways.
you are hurting the ears of both English and Spanish speaking alike.
I, I
Um,
I can't say that word. Yeah.
I I'm actually smoking the Big Tony tonight, and I smoked all my
Oh,
Anamis.
you smoked. You went through all those
I
Imamis.
did.
God,
I thought I had
that-
one left over for the show, and since Jennifer's probably not watching, I'll blame her. She probably smoked it. But I'm at 66%. But when
and
I
and
started smoking them, I was like, I swear to God. Yeah, see, look, Jennifer loves Delicioso. So there you go. That's where my cigar went. Um, when I started smoking them, I just was hooked, because I posted online, and I told Amin, in the green room, that during our time at PCA, we smoked a lot of great cigars. We met a lot of great people.
yeah,
We met, we interviewed a number of boutique companies, and for me, this is the sleeper brand of PCA. It was the one that we met him. We just started shooting shit with him. We did an interview, and it just was like, just that hook of just a small conversation turned into a conversation, turned into an interview, turned into getting some cigars and smoking them. And I was like, God dang, this is definitely a cigar that should be in cigar lounge humidors.
I definitely agree. But before we continue the show, we'd like to thank a couple of our partners for making this show happen each and every week. Irish Beard Balm and Simple Hair and Beard Color. If you're watching this, you already know my beard is looking sharp. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, go ahead and picture greatness. I keep it that way with two secret weapons: Simple Hair and Beard Color and Irish Beard Balm. FYI, Irish Beard Balm is my company. Simpler hair and beard color knocks out the grays, no mess, no mixing, just quick, clean, natural looking results. Then Irish Beard Balm steps in to keep the beard soft, healthy, and legendary. No gimmicks, just results. Want to level up your look? Hit the links in the description and thank me later. So all right, let's
Picture greatness. Picture greatness.
just
That's a great line.
picture greatness. So all right, waiting patiently in the green room is Amin Emami from Emami Cigars. But as always, if I can have our guests play themselves in, I do. So Amin, take it from here.
What's going on, everyone? I just wanted to kind of touch a few things, a little topic for today for you guys. First of all, I want to thank you for watching this video. It means a lot to me. And I truly believe that every one of you has a purpose in life. Every one of you is special in his own way. There's a reason why you are here. You got to believe in yourself. You got to have the confidence. You got to have the knowledge and feel that you are here for a purpose, because you are. You know, we often go through a lot of times in our life, and we're always searching for that one thing that can make us happy. And sometimes, you know, a lot of us go through life and we don't even find that. And that's a shame, you know? So I just want you to know that it's okay. It's okay that you feel that way. It's okay that you sometimes feel like you're lost. But just remember, you are here for a reason. You are special. You have a gift, no matter what. Be happy, be thankful, and have a blessed day.
What's going on, Amin?
What's going on, man?
So
Thank you guys for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You know, I wasn't even sure when I had that video if that was you. Like we said, like there's so many different looks, but I can tell you the other night when I was screen recording that video, I watched that video like 6 times because it's only a minute, and like Jessica had said something like, "Yeah, watching that video again." I'm like, I kind of needed to hear that, you know. Like I found that video at like, you know, just at a point I needed. I don't know. I needed that little extra boost. So thank you, you know, for that. Have you found that one thing that makes you happy yet?
You know, I have a lot of things that make me happy. I am grateful for life.
That's great.
That is. It's what about, okay, so you have plenty of things that make you happy. What about let me see. I have a where is this photo at? What made this young cat, you know, what was, you know, how long ago? Because look at you. God, look at that hair. God, I'm so jealous of that hair. What you know, what made that guy happy at that point? Because that guy.
Oh my God. Yeah, that you're taking me back on memory lane. I mean, with the video, with that picture, this is like years of things. So many things I've gone through. I've been through so many things since then and before then. But that picture, I remember we took that in Kansas City. We were shooting a special about when I was helping doing some life coaching and business coaching for a lot of my clients. Yeah, so that's what really made me happy back then, is just helping everyone succeed in something that they wanted to do and they were struggling with. So I was like, me giving back. Yeah, that was really. I mean, I still do it to this day all the time as much as I can. But just being a servant, being able to help somebody that's in need in some sort of way, that's part of my happiness.
Right on, because I mean, and because they're you know, reading a little bit about your story, you know, I mean, there were a lot of people that helped you along your way to get where you are, you know, joining us tonight, smoking a cigar. So let's go all the way back to the beginning as a young Amin growing up in Tehran. You know, I think a lot of people, you know, would love to hear the story of how you got from Tehran. I mean, I know that's where you were born, and I know you lived there for a certain amount of time. I don't know how long, and then you came over to the States. So, how long did you live in Iran?
Oh my gosh, bro! So you're taking me back to the early days. Well, I was born in the early '80s in Tehran, and this was like crazy time, you know, in the country, because you know the revolution just happened, the Shah left, and then the Iran-Iraq war was happening. So there was a lot of freaking chaos, you know, in the country, and just me growing up into that. And my mom and dad kind of divorced when I was 3 years old, but I was there till I was 9. At 9, my mom from America, she came down to visit, took me to Turkey so I could get my visa, and then that was a process. And then afterwards, I came to U.S. In 91.
91.
So
now, I said, where did you come? Where did you come into?
So at first, we went to Michigan, and my mom had remarried an Iranian American citizen. So he had a bunch of different like restaurants and, you know, different real estate stuff that he was doing in Michigan. We went to Michigan. We lived there for like, oh my God, I can't remember exactly, but 7 months, 8 months, something like that. And then he was liquidating everything from those areas. We went to Chicago, visited some family. We were there for a couple months, and then we went when we came back after the liquidation, it was in Kansas. We actually came to Lawrence, and we were living in Lawrence. I started going to school, to public school, and was in Lawrence since like 90. This would have been like 92-ish till about it was like 95, something like that. So about 3 years I was in Lawrence, and then I went to Philadelphia. So been around.
That from Tehran to Michigan, that was that had to have been one hell of an eye opener, to come from, because I mean, I don't know. I mean, I see pictures of Tehran, back then anyways, but that was a big place, like that's not a small, a small city. I don't know what like population what they have, but I'm sure it was more than whatever town in Michigan that you came to.
Oh my gosh, bro. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about a city of 9 to 10 million people. So it was a big change. I mean, as far as the population goes, but the culture and everything. I mean, once I got off into America, the airport, I was already shocked. I was like looking around, like, oh my God, this place is nice. It's clean. I can smell the air. The air feels clean. I look at all these buildings and everything looks nice, and it's just a totally different vibe.
Yeah, you probably would have been better off getting off in like Detroit. Maybe that would have felt a little bit more like home than than anywhere else. But and then moving to was it Philadelphia? You said.
But yeah, I went to Philadelphia, so that was nice. Philadelphia was nice. I was living with my aunt and uncle back then, and was there for it was like 5 years, about something like that. Yeah, since 99 till 99, so 4.5 years or so, something like that. Four and a half years.
So what was it like? I mean, how was your? I mean, were you bilingual? So did you learn English and then you came over here, or how did or did you have to learn?
No, not at all, bro. So in Iran, growing up, it was kind of crazy because like you kind of see it on the propaganda, the media, and all this stuff too. But some of it is true. I mean, they did not want us to be westernized, so they did not want us to learn English, all these things, unless you had a private school or something like that. So I didn't learn any English when I got here, and they just threw me into the public school, and all I knew was hi, bye, and I don't know English. So that's I could say, hey, hi, bye, and then when you ask me more questions, I say, I don't know English.
That they actually just, without knowing English, they actually just put you in a public school.
Yes, to this day, I never asked my parents that, like, why did you do this to me? But I'll never forget, bro. I mean, I was in a classroom, the teachers are teaching stuff, and I had like books to learn English because I knew I had to do that. So I'm like kind of looking at everything, and they're talking, they're asking questions. Kids are looking at me like, who the fuck is this guy? Why is he not answering anything back when we're asking him questions? Because I didn't understand what was happening. And then eventually, after a couple, not even a couple months, I think it was like within that first month that they called us all into the principal's office, and the principal, like, telling my parents, like, hey, we need to start up first grade. Like, he's not understanding any English. And they translated that to me, and I was like, yeah, I am not going back to first grade. I'll learn English as fast as possible. Please, let me do the homework. I might not be able to speak, but I'll do the homework. I'll do the tests. Give me a chance. And that became a big motivation for me to learn English very fucking quickly. So within 6 months, I was pretty fluent.
6 months. So I had a friend of mine, Magda. She came over from Poland, and she learned English from watching cartoons. She came over real early, though. I think she was like 4 or 5 years old, and just watching cartoons, just learned fluent English. And how did you? I mean, how did you learn? I mean, within like a month.
That's home, bro. That's home to me because I was literally watching cartoons, comedy, anything I could, and I remember I had a little book that would like translate back and forth. We didn't have phones and things, technology to like make it easy for us back then. So I remember I would have the VCRs, and I would rewind everything back, and to like repeat the words and pronunciate it and look at the dictionary, see what it means. And it was kind of like self-teaching. Yeah, especially on the pronunciation part, I had to do that because my parents had a big accent. So I was like, I can't be asking them how to say things because that would sound like that. So I had to watch a lot of different movements, especially comedy movies because they were very expressive and like I remember just doing that all the time in the beginning.
Where in Philadelphia did you live? You remember?
A bunch of different places in Philly. So I was in Germantown, Philadelphia. I went to Bluebell, Ambler,
Okay.
Elkins Farms, those areas. Yeah.
Ah, that was a little bit, a good footprint there in the eastern Pennsylvania.
Yes. Are you familiar with it? Were you there before?
Yeah.
I grew up in Pennsylvania, so I was
Oh
born,
my God.
yeah, I was born and raised in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, which is Lebanon, Lancaster area. But I went to school in Delaware and spent a lot of time in Philly. All my buddies were from Philly when I went to school, and then when I graduated college, I worked in Pottstown and covered that whole area, Quakertown. I lived in Ephrata, so we used to go to Bluebell.
Oh my.
You know, Intercourse, Blue Ball, Bird in Hand, all those.
Oh my God.
Yeah, very familiar with
What
that.
a small world. Yeah, I went to Wissahickon High School. You know that high school?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Familiar, yeah.
Yeah, I went to Wissahickon and then Germantown Middle School or whatever I think that's what it was called. It was something else. I can't remember the name of it right now. But definitely Wissahickon High School is the one I went to.
Yeah, that you live in Philadelphia, that'd be a good crash course in learning English in Philly.
But I was fully fluent by then. You know, you're talking about years after I went to Philadelphia. So yeah, the first year was the toughest year, you know, especially the first few months. But you know, the first year and a half was definitely tough. You know, a lot of bullying. People were getting bullied me all the time. You're that new kid on the block from a different world. Don't know any fucking English. So yeah.
Somebody wants to know what cigar you are smoking tonight.
I'm actually I'm kind of trying to smoke this every time I do a podcast or anything. I'm putting it down. It goes out. I gotta relight it like 10 times. But I'm smoking my Cyrus series. It's the Connecticut, Ecuadorian Connecticut that we have in our life. Yeah, thank you so much, man. I'm glad you like it. So
yeah, that's got a great flavor. Great flavor for Connecticut. I mean, because I don't smoke a lot of Connecticut's, but that's got some really nice flavor. Really good, great morning smoke.
Thank you. That is actually usually my morning cigar, unless I just want another cigar. So usually I have like 4 or 5 cigars a day. So it just depends on my mood, what I'm doing, how I want to feel. I go by the feel, you know. So right now I felt like I just want a Connecticut.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Connecticut's to me, it's either a morning cigar or a night cigar. Like I don't smoke Connecticut's during the day. Like I'll either start my day off with a Connecticut sometimes. Usually I do like a little bit heavier, bolder of a cigar, but that or it's night. I like to wind down my evening with a nice Connecticut, you know, and just you know, just mellow out, just you know, a nice smooth cigar.
Yeah.
So what were you? So what were you into as a kid in Philly? You know, like hobbies? Did you were you working or you know what was a teenager Amin like?
Well, other than just going to school and the daily routines, I mean, I was helping my aunt and uncle. They had a Middle Eastern restaurant, and I would help them out all the time. You know, go into the kitchen and either prepare the food or go sell the food. And we had farmers markets, so I would go there and do some sales there. And then as far as my hobbies goes, I mean, I always like music. So, I mean, it's always like, you know, hanging out with my buddies, listen to some new music or things like that, or just going on bike rides. I was a big into bike riding.
Yeah, that was my
Bicycle.
that was my childhood, man. Like I said, that was our freedom.
Mhm.
Was our but if you had a bicycle, especially you go out like on a weekend or after school, and the world was our oyster back then. I don't know, I don't think the world is any less safe than it was back then. I think we just have social media, so we hear about all the crap that's going on. I think it happened back then too, but we were dumb, at least we didn't know about it, so now you know what to look out for. But man, those are the times, getting on your bike and just heading out.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was the thing exactly, bro. I mean, I remember I would go on bike rides for hours sometimes. I would tell my cousins, my friends, like, I'm gonna come see you guys. They're like, how did I get here? I was like, I'll ride my bike. It's like, what the hell? You're gonna ride all the way here? I was like, yeah. So I would just get on it and do like an hour and a half bike ride to get there, and we would hang out, play some games, and ride back.
Yeah, I was same thing. It'd be nothing to ride an hour to a friend's house, and I mean, probably a little bit less, but you're always getting into some shit, on the way, and just going out of your way. But yeah, it was so I'm with you on that one. Just that was, like I said, that was our freedom, man. That was great.
Bro. I kind of miss those things sometimes. You think about those times and the amounts of different types of fun we used to have and how life was back then. Yeah, it's nice to reminisce. It's nice to reminisce.
It is, it's what I think what I don't know about you guys, but what I miss the most is just having that time. Like I can't find, like I haven't golfed in years because I can't find 3 hours out of my day, any day, to go golf, let alone go on a bike ride for an hour. I would think of like, oh God, I got so much to do, which we don't. We could find time if we wanted to, but we're all businessmen here, so there's always something that's keeping us from doing that.
And finding the energy as you get older, finding that energy too. To you could be like, hey, I got some time, but man, it'd be really nice just to relax and sit down.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You get back from an hour bike ride, then you're down for 3 or 4 hours. You got to take a nap or something, or he's like, my back, I'm gonna put some ice on my back. And so yeah.
Well, you're talking about like being a kid and having riding bikes. When I went back to Pennsylvania this weekend and we did a celebration of life for my dad. We had everybody invited folks, and I got a chance to see some of my buddies, like my friends that we met in diapers, like neighborhood, like that type of old school friend. And it was like, man, you just start reminiscing and talking about the good old days. And it was I think I gained a few extra years over the weekend just having these conversations. I felt a little bit younger after having these conversations. It's so awesome.
Oh, that's awesome, bro. Yeah, it's so fun to get, with your old friends like that, get together and reminisce. It does bring some energy back, some juices that, you were missing in your life sometimes. Yeah, I love doing that.
It does. And it's always sobering too when you talk to folks who've known you your whole life. Like Kevin and I we've known each other for years, and it seems like longer, right? It seems like we've been friends longer. And those are also great friendships because the time frame is really indefinable. It just is.
Yeah, life's short, bro. You gotta be able to spend time like that as much as you can, because we're on the grind all the time, all of us. But that's something that we all need to just sit down once in a while and say, hey, I gotta make time for that.
Yep.
Yeah, because at our age, like Carrie was at a celebration of life, and my friends and I, the only time we get together anymore are weddings and a funeral. And that's the only time every couple of years. It's just weddings, and then what do we all say the same thing? We'll spend 3 or 4 hours having a good time, telling stories, and as we're leaving, let's keep in touch. Let's do this again, and we do it again at the next wedding or funeral.
Yeah. So it's like a year later. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We're all guilty of that. We're all guilty of
are.
it, but we definitely need to work on it better. Yeah.
We do. Our group of friends, we had one guy that did that every few months. He was the guy. He would spend days messaging all of us, maybe a group of 6 or 8 guys, working, like let everybody's schedule. Let's get a night down. Let's get a night down. And he would work tirelessly on that, and then unfortunately he passed away, and, we all keep in touch, obviously on social media, we'll text, and that's it. But yeah, since he passed away years ago, we haven't had a get together. He was the guy, that was really important to him, and we all really appreciated that. But yeah, family, life, jobs, it's all, it all gets in the way, but moving on. So I read a little story. You did go back to Tehran for a little while. Like, how old were you, and what was the decision to go back?
So I went back when I was 17. Well, it's kind of, all my stories are long stories, but I try to make them brief and short for you and the audience. But when I was 17, I was in Philadelphia. Things were a little rough with me and my uncle a little bit, and I was like, hey, I just got to get away. Let me go back, visit Iran, and see my family back home, and then come back shortly after. But it didn't happen that way. So when I went there, when I tried to leave, I was too close to being 18. The government's like, you're not going to leave without going to the army, and it's mandatory for 3 years to go to the army. And I was like, shit, I gotta leave. So then I was like a fugitive from the army, and I had to find someone to pay so I can legally get a document that says you don't have to serve the army, so I can leave the country. And that was a process. And fast forward, I was at that point, I was on green card. I had to get a re-entry card that was only good for 6 months max. And I was way past that already. And finally, I got my paperwork done. I was working at a hotel. I was a front desk manager guy. Was watching live news, and all of a sudden 9/11 happened. We were all in shock. And at that moment, I was like, oh, fuck, this is not good. I need to get the fuck out of this place. I got to get out of here. And so I got the ticket, and I flew in, and I knew I was in trouble, because I was like, I don't have my paperwork says you can't enter, right? Because it's expired. So I went to JFK, and this was right after 9/11. This was in October-ish, November-ish time. Got to JFK, and the guy's looking at my paperwork. He's like, what are you doing here? So then I explained to him the whole shebang of I got stuck, and I had to get my way out. And they're like, you need to go see the judge. Like you shouldn't be here, but we'll let you go talk to him. And then they had an INS judge, and I had to wait in the lobby. It felt like a lifetime. But finally, I get to the guy, and the guy's like asking me all these questions. So I'm repeating this story, and then he's like, "You're good to go." I'm like, "Where?" He's like, "Here. This is your home." I was like, "Fuck, thank you so much. I love you." And I got out of that airport. I think the fastest I ever got out of any airport. I was like, I better leave before they change their mind.
Oh, so, yeah, because it would have been 6 months later. It was the the military aged males are the ones that were being not let in. It was for fear of they didn't know what their intentions were. From any country in the Middle East. So yeah, you definitely.
So I felt that when I went to my own country, back my home country, because they felt like that because I was here for so long. So they treated me that way there, like, oh, are you a spy? What are you doing here? And then, it was a whole, like, I went to jail one time, in Iran too, because of some of that politics shit. And then when I get back, I felt the same way a little bit. So it's like, I feel like I repeat these patterns sometimes. Things like that happen to me. So I was like, I'm done. I'm not going back home. Yeah. Ever since then, I haven't visited.
So have you ever been back since?
No. I was like, I'm not doing it, especially now. Back then, I'm a kid. I don't have much responsibilities. And now, you have businesses, family, kid. It's too much to lose and be stuck in a country that I can't get out.
Yeah, it was. They're definitely going through some troubling times. The transitional times right now. It's a, I think the world has hope for Iran. It's we'll see. But
It's sad, bro, because we as the people of Iran, 80% almost want democracy, want
Mhm.
westernization. They don't want this revolution, these crazy ass farmers that are running the place. And we've been protesting for a lot of years, right? 40 something years now, trying to change this regime, but we haven't had any luck because the government's very good at like squeezing the people in a way to where you can't really do much about it. So it's kind of sad because you got a beautiful country, you got amazing people that are welcoming. When you go there, for example, they would like get the shirt off their back, right? You got to come to my home. We'll feed you. Don't worry about it. You don't have to stay at a hotel. It's things like that. We'll show you everywhere. And but the politics and the government, it's sad. Look at me. I haven't went back to visit my family for 20 something years.
yeah, and the Western media doesn't help, because they don't show, the parts of, Iran, Iraq, Syria, where the people do want, like you said, democracy. They want that Western culture, but all they show on the media is the flag burning, like, oh, death to America, everything else. And it's like, oh, see, these people really don't want us there. They hate our culture. They don't want to be like us. And it's just like, kid, it's
Wow.
sad.
Yeah, it's very sad, bro. It is sad, but that's propaganda. It's always been like that. It's always going to be that way because you have to frame a mindset, especially when you're going against somebody. I don't want to get into politics too much with this, but at the end of the day, it is sometimes you have to go visit somewhere or see the outside. Don't be closed in, so you get the real picture of what really is going on in these places.
Oh, for sure. So you leave the airport. The judge says you're free to go. How old are you at this point? You said you're that 18,
19.
19. So
It was
what's
19 by the time I got.
yeah. So what's next for you? Where do you what do you do? Where do you go back to Philadelphia? Where does Amin go?
No, I came to Kansas to visit my mom, and at that point, they had moved from Lawrence to a smaller town, Eudora, and I came there. I visited them. I just said, I got to go back to school. And now I'm at 19. I'm going back to high school and in junior. I was a junior then. I was the oldest guy in the junior class, and that was not fun either because now I've had all this experience, crazy things in my life happening. I'm older, and I'm amongst some of the younger kids. The maturity level was just not there. For me, it was with everyone else kind of. I just couldn't handle it. I was like, I got to drop out. So that's what I did. I dropped out of high school, and then I got into a program to just get my high school diploma offsite and finished it that way, and then just got into the workspace. I was never a guy that wanted to go into school. Eventually, I went to college and dropped out of college too. Yeah, but I just started working and doing like first odd-end jobs, and I remember when I had to also live, any history, so I had to go into very bad spots and live almost like a project lifestyle, and that was kind of rough too. But I put in the time. I just did a lot of different things and worked and built myself way up and just started going to different career paths until I became a manager. I was managing businesses and built on that. And then that's when things clicked. And I said, I need to start my own business. And that's kind of what I did, in my 20s, early mid-20s, I guess, is when I first started my first business. It was a car detailing business.
Yeah, I had a similar, like I said, I dropped out of high school my junior year, and I had this paper I had to take around to all my teachers, and say I'm dropping out of school, and everybody tried to talk me out of it and everything else. And then I got to my business management and law teacher, and that was my favorite class. And he signed it, and he goes, "You're going to be okay." I think he saw it then. It's like you were like the best student, like business. And like I said, that was my favorite. I same thing. Just go out in the workforce. I got a jump start on all my buddies. They all went to college, and I started working. Same thing. So, but yeah, car detailing. That's good. But Kansas, that had to have been yet another culture shock from Philadelphia.
Huge shock, bro. Huge, because I'm used to these big cities and all these movements and diversities, and then I come up to the Midwest in the middle of nowhere. Actually in Lawrence, where I ended up being, is a little more diverse. We have the KU, Kansas University, so a lot of people from all over the world would come here, and it wasn't as bad, but yeah, I mean, it's you're talking about 9 million people, then you go to another bigger city, and then you come up here with like 80,000 people. So it was a big jump.
Oh, I bet. So so we'll fast forward. Yeah, I know you have a bunch of businesses now. You have like the CBD business, and that's one that from what it looks like, that's a pretty large a large business. Like that's not small. What you develop. How did you get into that?
Well, I've always been an advocate of just like marijuana in the past, but eventually I realized that personally for me, that I didn't like the THC effect as much. And then I started realizing that, the whole CBD line has this benefit of medical benefits that I wanted for myself and like for everyone else. And I started studying that business, and I was like, that's what I want to do. So I started getting into the CBD business, and we started out with gummies. That was the first product that I did, and eventually, I had like 60 different products. I started that business right before COVID happened too. So it was a kind of a crazy timing, but it kind of worked out eventually to my favor. Yeah, so it was just because I wanted to have something for my own self. I've dealt with anxiety when I was growing up a lot of times. Obviously, I've learned how to control that a lot better now. Yeah, but the CBD definitely helped me. And I was like, man, a lot of people can use this, and a lot of people, suffer from that, either knowing about it or not knowing about it, not even knowing what they're dealing with. And I was like, I got to get this out there.
I've always wanted to look a little bit more into it, but I never known anybody that like owned a company. Because like I said, it's the same thing for me. Like I said, I've never done any drug a day in my life ever. Even when you look at me, people find that hard to believe. But I'm getting older. I got back pain, I got knee pain, I got shoulder pain, and people keep saying, like you need to try the CBD, and I'm like, I don't know. It's like you hear some are good, some are bad. Companies that they get lawsuits because they're putting bad stuff in there. And then I'm concerned about like the THC side of it. Can you get hooked on, like if I rub CBD on my knee, can I get addicted to that? That's all things that are going through my mind. So what like on your products, like what is like can you get addicted to CBD, as in like if it's a joint relief? Or
no, not at all. No. CBD, especially if it's pure CBD, it is 0 THC. It's not that addictive at all. And it has very, very good beneficial things for you, especially for your bones. If you're using it correctly, you have to treat it like a medicine. If it's treated like a medicine, if it's dosed right, and you're getting a good product, like you were saying, yeah, there's a lot of companies who got into this industry because the money was there to be made. Everybody started getting into it, and they were cutting corners. And people, because it's not regulated as much, so people don't know that, and they see a label, they trust it, oh, they look good and they use it, and then all these bad things will happen. But you know, a good company will do lab testing, will make sure. So that's what we did, and we do. Is multiple lab testing. You know, you got a lab test from the get-go for the CBD product. Then when it gets into the product and makes it to the product, you do another lab testing. Then you re-lab test it to make sure before it gets into the mass production. So there's levels of testing you have to do to make sure that product is safe. As far as just, you know, not having any pesticides or chemicals or solvents, or and also the dosage being correct. So there's all these different things you have to do, but a lot of people don't do it because it costs money, you know. So if they want to cut those corners, but in long run, you don't have to. You'll still make money. It's just, yeah, you don't get as much margin, but just don't cut the corner. You know, at the end of the day, it's short-term thinking versus long-term thinking. You know, a lot of people look at businesses, you know, and you just got to look at it that way. But I will stand behind that, and I can send you stuff too, bro. You can try it out if you really want to try it. But there's definitely good benefits from it, and there's not psychoactive when it's just CBD, and it's not addictive. Even THC itself, if it's dosed correctly, microdose, it cannot be as what do you call it, addictive. Yeah, you just have to use it properly, not like recreational style. You know, if you're doing it like that, then that's different. Of course, going to get high as fuck, and it can become addictive because you want that feeling and you're not getting it, and you know, that would cause addictive, you know, personality there.
Now, I know you have. Go ahead, Kerr.
I just had a question because you bring something up, and you see it a lot with multivitamins and different types of you know, things with St. John's wort. And I remember reading an article, and I think it was Time magazine, about these different vitamins and different supplements, and then they actually brought them in and tested them, and there was only like a handful of them that even had a portion of what they claim to have within their fillers. So, what are some of the things that people can look for, especially with CBD? Because I read a lot about, you know, CBD and the benefits to CBD, and I would really like to see an increased some clinical trials and testing of CBD to really check its therapeutic effects. But with buying it either from you or from whatever, what are some of the things that folks can look at to be reassured that they are getting what they're paying for?
You want to make sure that, that's key, and that's what you want to look for is knowing that they are matched correctly to product. And you can follow that batch on their website. So, you know, usually good companies will have a QR code or a batch number on that, and then you go back on the website. You can track it to that lab test. And that lab test should be directed back to the lab itself, which is a reputable lab. So you know that it's not like a fake lab put on your website. It actually came from that lab because they have records of it. So you want to make sure that you're doing that, because a lot of times, you know, you just look at their lab and it could be made up. I mean, it's easy to make up anything, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure that you can track that lab back to the lab company and make sure that it is the exact lab. I mean, you got to be able to read that lab, and a lot of these labs sometimes, you know, they're making it user friendly for the consumers, so it's easy to read. You know, some of the labs, you know, when we do it, you know, it's you might understand, but you know, now for the consumer part, they kind of dummy it down a little bit to where it's like, okay, did it pass? Did it fail? Did it pass? Did it fail? And then if it says passing and all those things, and you can track that back to the lab company, then it should be a good product.
Now on your website, do you ship all 50 states, or are there some states that you're not allowed to ship to, or?
Yeah, no, unfortunately, no. So depending on the type of product it is, so we do CBD, just, you know, all sorts of different products within that, right? And some with THC in it. So depending on the product itself and the levels of it, you can send it to some places, you can't send it to some places, you can send some things to some place, not the other, or it's just totally freaking banned. So that's another thing that you got to keep up with this industry, is having to know what's happening every day, so you don't get yourself in a lawsuit or some crazy shit. You know, it's a wild west industry.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it is. Where's the CBD industry going? Like, where do you see it in the next few years? Do you see a lot wider acceptance? Or is the government just they're not on board yet?
I don't think so. I think the boom already happened and it died. So
Oh,
in the
really?
CBD industry, yeah. So early on, whoever got in early on made a shit ton of bank, and now it's so saturated with everybody like cutthroating because they just need to get their things off their shelves that they created. So it's kind of a weird transition that's happening in that industry, and especially with a lot of the legalization of just marijuana in
Yeah.
the different states. That caused a lot of interrupt on that too, and they got big money, and they are paying a lot of people to match the whole CBD hemp industry side, to where it makes you feel like you might get really bad stuff, right? So I don't see that industry in the future really coming back strong until maybe something's changed. So that's an industry that I have. So I have a business, but I'm not even focusing too much on it now. My focus is like, okay, let's just wait it out. Let's see how it is. I don't put a lot of I don't even reinvest. I used to reinvest in that business when it was booming, like create new products, this, that. Now it's like, hey, we got a good product, we dummied it down, keep it going. Let's see what it happens in the future, and if we need to get in the boardroom and create more things and bring this thing back to forefront. But yeah, that industry right now is kind of hurting. But again, a lot of it has to do with the legalization of the dispensaries, marijuana dispensaries.
Yeah. So what about a friend of yours had told me you're really into a product, maybe that or your next line, oil of oregano. Is that a product that you use? And I mean, will that be the next Emami product?
He did not tell you this, Nick.
I don't.
Yeah, man, we gotta put him on the spot. He's gonna ask some shit like that. We're gonna put Nick on the spot. So Nick from El Mago is the guy that loves the oregano oil. And I'll never forget, I was like, going through some sickness, and I was sick and shit. I was like calling, I was like, hey, bro, I'm not feeling too good. I haven't smoked for like 3 days. He's like, bro, what are you doing? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you need some oregano oil. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you didn't hear about that shit? I take that shit every day. I was like, come on, bro, you're joking, right? He's like, no, I'm serious. Ask me out. So it was true. He takes oregano oil all the fucking time.
Wow.
And then I tried it finally when I went to PCA at our dinner table. He pulls out the freaking bottle. He's like, you want to try it? I was like, okay, I'll fucking try it. But no, I do not take oregano oil every day. That's not my thing.
Okay. So I didn't know the story. I was just told to ask you about the oil of oregano. So
that's gonna be good. I'm gonna have a good conversation with him after this.
So
what is oil of oregano?
It's literally concentrated down oil squeezed out of oregano leaves.
I was wondering if it was that simple.
Yeah,
it's that simple, but apparently it has so many different benefits for you, like for your guts, this, that, and Nick is the guy you want to ask the shit about. He swears by this. He can sit there for hours and tell you about how good it is. Take it this way, take it that way. So no, I tried it, but it's not my thing.
I can see his grandma, like 5-year-old Nick, scrape his knee, just to put some oregano oil on it. Yeah, you got a little cough, little oregano oil. You got a cut, little oregano oil.
It's like the vape scrub. It's like the vape scrub. Everything that's wrong with you, just put that on. There you go.
Back in the day, it was black. When I was a kid, it was black salve. Black salve was whatever. I don't know if you ever heard of that. Have you ever heard of black salve?
No.
It's basically a tube of jar. It's a tube of tar, Is what it is. It's like it's a black Sabbath. It has this tar component to it, and that's what we obviously go back to the days of mercurochrome and methylate that basically our parents put mercury in our bloodstream. But this was this black Sabbath, and you put it on everything, and on the old Pennsylvania Dutch, it'd be like it'll draw out the infection. And then you keep it on your finger for a couple of days. All it did was it stained your skin.
Oh my gosh!
The crazy things that we try in our life to cure things, huh?
That's it. But then again, our grandparents lived to be 100, so there was something to some of these cures that, or it was most likely the good food they ate. Wasn't the chemicals that they pump into our bodies nowadays.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that has to do a lot with what's happening. You go into a grocery store, like 80% of everything that's in there has got something bad for you. So it's bad.
Yeah, and it all starts with sugar, high fructose corn syrup, sugar, sugar.
Oh yeah. That's killer, man. It's amazing. You talk about they talk about drugs and alcohol and all these things, that sugar is the worst.
Yeah, it really is. So you brought up Nick. Tell us how you met Nick. I think it had something to do. I mean, he didn't tell me. He said it had something to do with a half-empty carton of eggs. That's how you guys met or something. I don't know what the.
Giving you all the fun stories. No, so the biggest reason how I got into the industry was because of Nick. Well, really because of his good friend, his childhood friend, Ray. So Ray was going to KU here in Lawrence, and he graduated. Now he's a lawyer, and he was going to law school. He's a cigar smoker. Came to the lounge. I was there with my buddies, and we started talking and getting to know each other. And I told him, I don't know how it went there, but it was talking about business, and I was telling him, I've been trying to start my own, cigar business. And he's like, really? I said, yeah. I said, I know a lot of guys in the industry. My dad is a great lawyer in Miami. One of his biggest clients and friends is the My Father guys. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. And conversation kind of led into get me somebody in the industry to a factory that's you probably have some good connection. And he said, I'll do my best. That conversation, happened. A few months later, he gives me a call. He's like, you remember that conversation? I said, oh, of course, bro. He said, well, I got my good friend Nick, and he started his own company, El Mago, and he can get you with the guy. I said, let's go. So he put me on a phone call. I got into, with Nick, and Nick with Miguel, and then, the rest was history. We're here because of that conversation. So he's like a brother from another mother. I talk to him all the time. We joke and give each other shit about oregano oil and half carton of eggs that he shows up to an event, and he's like, well, I'll tell you the story about the egg part. So he was doing an event, and every time he's scared, does an event, I'm always going to support, right? So I went there, surprised him, hey, what up, bro? There's a bad. And I was like, afterwards, let me take you out. We'll go have something to eat or something. He's like, yeah, and he's always on a time crunch. I don't know why the fuck he does this stuff. It's like, you can't get to the airport in time. You get to book the shit right. And then we get out, and he's like, I have something for you. Wait. I was like, I thought maybe he's going to give me a cigar or something. I don't know. He comes back out, and he's got a carton of eggs. I was like, what the fuck? He's like, yeah. I said, what is this, bro? Eggs? He's like, yeah. I was like, what the fuck are you doing with some eggs? He's like, bro, I need to have something to eat. And then now I got to go to the airport. What am I going to do with these eggs? You take them. I was like, what the fuck? All right, I'll take the eggs. So ended up taking some eggs home to my wife, and she's like, what the fuck is this? Half a carton of eggs?
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God.
That's hilarious.
It's a big thing.
They've been in his car all day. Don't worry about it. They're probably fine. So you were looking to get into the cigar business when you met his friend. So what made you want to get into? Because at that time, you were doing the CBD and you had the IT company, because you still do that, correct?
Yes. So I went into the IT thing a long time ago, since 2013. I've been in that business, and then 2019 with the CBD, and but the cigar thing happens in my 20s. That's where I really got introduced to it. And then by the time I was in my 30s, I was like obsessed, smoking a lot of cigars, spending thousands of dollars a month. And it just dawned to me, I was like, I'm a business guy. Why don't I start my own company? But that was just the thought process. And then now it came to years of just learning the industry, everything that went into it, the farming, the manufacturing, everything. Like on the front end, back end, legal stuff, you name it. And I was to the point where I said, I'm ready. I'm ready to do this. I wanted to get this done. And when that conversation happened at the lounge with Ray, I was pretty much ready to go. Just needed to figure out the part of the manufacturing part. And when Nick came into the picture, that it just all kind of came together and started the company. But it just came down to me being so passionate about something and spending a lot of money. And I wanted to say, hey, I want to bring my creative part into this industry and my passion, and then start it for myself, and give that creativity of the different blends into consumers and see if they like what I create.
So tell us about like that first meeting of I'm assuming you went down to, because your cigars are rolled to what, MGE? Is that the name of the factory? Yeah. Same with So did you go down to Miami? Did you meet up with those guys? Did you go to the factory? How did that first?
Oh, no, not at all, because I knew Ray so well, and he's a good friend at that time, and it was more of a, I trust you, give me the things, put me on videos and things like that, and then I'll come visit. So in the beginning, I didn't even go down. I was just taking Ray and Nick's word, and they had the proof, so I didn't have any reason to say they're bullshitting me. So it just came down to saying, okay, this is what I want. This is the type of tobacco I want. This is the type of blending I need to do. So just purchasing the right tobaccos, blending it back and forth with them. So just did a bunch of different blends in the beginning and got it back and started just testing it, smoking it, giving it to everybody I could, getting feedback from it, going back and forth, reblending it, until I was like, okay, I'm going to launch with these products. And once that happened, after that is when I went to the factory. So it kind of was a blessing in disguise for me, because a lot of guys that get into the industry, start this, they have that, they don't have that type of connection, and they cannot take someone's vouch like that. So you have to go to these different factories, figure out who you're going to deal with, right? So that for me, it was kind of a blessing that I had these guys in my circle to where I could get in that fast.
That does make it nice. That's how I got into making my first few cigars, through the show. I developed these great friendships with all these people. So when you're ready to make a cigar, yeah, you really don't have to go to the factory, as long as you're trusting the person that's your friend. Like you said, they're not going to fuck you. So you can. It's easier to get in. I think it's easier to get in that way, than it is just to go to the factory, because you don't know what you're going to get. You just walk into a factory and, it's like, oh, hey, they're going to give you a cigar, pick the one on the wall, like at the carnival. You want the top shelf, that's this much, middle shelf, this, and then bottom shelf, this. What do you, just throw it out there.
That happens a lot. That happens a lot to a lot of guys in this industry, but for us, Miguel and the factory down there, we grow a lot of our own tobacco. So it's like 80% is our own tobacco. So for aging it, we got a whole process. So we are in a better shape. And I was in a better shape because we could just pick and choose the tobacco, and then have our master blender work with me to where now it's blending, hands-on, without me hands-on, and doing it for me, and just going back and forth until I say, yes, this is the one I want to go with. So it's kind of a blessing, bro. It's kind of a blessing that, we have such a great team, and, the great guys, and I've obviously been there, and I'm going to be going there all the time now, as I'm growing the company. It's a little bit different story nowadays, but, it's nice to have the right people on the bus.
Yeah.
That That's it. What? So when you had that first cigar, you know, and obviously they're sending it to you. You said you're trying it out. You got friends smoking it. You're smoking it. You're going back and forth blending. Did you have and it's a question that I ask a lot to, especially boutique cigar makers. Did you have the knowledge to know what your, because I'm not a blender. Like when if I don't like a cigar, like I don't know what I like. I don't know what I don't like about it. So it's really hard for me to articulate that. Like, I don't like it. What don't you like? I don't know. Make it better. You know, did you have that? Did you have that ability, you know, being, you know, like I said, you know, you were diving in, you're kind of a cigar nerd. Did you have that ability to say, this is what I don't like?
You know, it comes down to your palate. I think I have a good enough palate to where I can articulate what I want out of a cigar with my blender of the beginning, the middle, the end, and what I'm looking for out of a cigar, drop-wise, note-wise, things like that. Being able to compare things, right? So for me, in the beginning, you know, I was giving them examples of different types of cigars that we both knew about. And I said, I want this part of this to be like this part of that. So it was like having a good palate to you where you can go back and forth on, and then having them do the science of it, of the recipe for you. You know, for me, you know, I'm learning as I go. You know, I'm learning, okay, if you put this much of this tobacco or that much of this type of tobacco, it's going to do this to the cigar versus a little bit different, even like 1% of this more, 2% of this, it might change the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
So it comes down to science, and, you know, that recipe that your master blender is the guy. But it helps that you have a good palate, that you can compare things and tell them what you want and be able to articulate that pretty well, and where he can do the job that he needs to do. And then, so I don't have to keep telling them 10 times, redo this.
So how many cigars did you start off with? One? Did you start off with several? You know, like, hey, I want to do 5 cigars, or did you just start off with, hey, let's start with 1 cigar and see where that goes?
Well, in the beginning, the whole thought process was to start with 1, but I realized I didn't want to do that. Like right as we were blending that, I said, I don't think I want to do 1. I think I need to do a sampler pack to where I can give people an option of a variety and test the market with the sampler pack. And so I decided I'm going to do 5, and I'm going to put it in a fresh pack. And when I did that in the beginning, it was 0 bands, naked cigars in a fresh pack, and was just selling the fresh pack. And just kind of introduce it to the market, getting feedback from every one of the different blends. And once I knew that, you know, a lot of people are loving this, I said, okay, we're going to stick with this and just really focus on those 5 blends. Rebanded it. We did 1 band, and then after that, we did a band and a ribbon on the foot. And I said, no, I need more presents. So I said, I'm going to do triple bands. And it just, you know, the company started graduating in that 5 main blends from the beginning. And then, I mean, now, today, we have 16 different cigars. So,
and we heard the story about the joke they pulled on you, where they told the people in the factory that you wanted to put another band on your cigar.
Yeah. Let's add another band.
It was actually 2 bands more added.
Yeah. I do like. I'm not a foot band person. I don't like the ribbon foot bands. I love you have and that's actually part of the paper band. I don't know if anybody else does this. Like I said, there's thousands of cigars out there. So nobody, you know, seems like every time you say I was the first, someone else will say, oh, I've been doing that for years. But I don't recall anybody doing the different colored foot bands instead of the ribbons, and I love it. I think it looks fantastic. I think it looks a lot classier than the ribbon foot band. I love it. I mean, I think I've got like, yeah, there's like, you know, your whole, everything you have is just clean.
Oh, thank you, bro. Thank you so much. The whole reason I did the color coding too is because a lot of times, you know, people try your cigar and they love it, they'll see me somewhere and say, "Oh, I tried your cigar. It was a darker cigar, but I can't remember the name." And I said, "What color was the band?" And they're like, "Oh, I think it was the blue band." I said, "Oh, the Delicioso." So the whole color coding of that was really because of getting into a psychological part of a person of not remembering the name, but knowing the color. So not only the presence, but also remembering that type of cigar. It was the Emami, the blue band. And it definitely helps, kind of knowing, okay, what is it that you're talking about?
Yeah, Kerr, on how many times we've talked about that before. Color coding works.
Yeah, most definitely. Hey, I had a question for you because you had mentioned about you first came out with your cigars and then you went into the bands, and I did see on your website for wholesalers there is an Emami cigar label, and then there is the white label. What's the difference between the two of those, or is that just
So we can create cigars for guys that they can have their own labels. So we do a lot of business for especially different lounges that we make house blends, things like that, to where if they want naked cigars or if they want their own bands and things like that. So we have a whole side of business that we can create a cigar for anybody really, as long as it fits within the model of how we do it.
right? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, there's a couple companies that do that. You don't see that too often, and I don't think you see it at all from a boutique cigar company. That will offer that. So that does make it nice, especially if someone, like you said, you get into this business and you start smoking. I mean, we all have thousands of dollars worth of cigars, and it's just like, I could just start a company, order like 10,000, and then I'm good to go. Just not sell them. I'll just smoke them myself. Have my own have my own bands on them.
That's funny, and you'd be surprised. Some people do that. Some people do come up with an idea and they want to order something big and they want to start a business, but eventually, for whatever reason, if it's struggles or whatever it is, they might end up just smoking it themselves and handing it out to their friends. But yeah, it happens.
It's because everybody thinks if you roll it, they will come. Hey, if I make a cigar like I'm really well known in the cigar world. Kerr is really well known in the cigar world. I have a couple of my cigars. I don't sell a lot of cigars. Like I said, just because you make a cigar and a lot of people doesn't mean people are just gonna buy your cigars. So many people get in this industry and get out just as fast. Because you get in trouble really quickly. You can get over your head and end up with how am I going to pay for the $100,000 worth of cigars? It's like, oh my god, so.
Oh yeah, that happens a lot. That does happen a lot, bro. But it takes a lot of different things, to have any company. But in a cigar world, you have a lot of competition out there. A lot of new boutiques are coming out. So it comes down to first, your product. You have to have a good product. You have to have good tobacco, good blends. And then after that is obviously your presence, how is your packaging, and your pricing is key. It has to fit within a price of the type of cigar you're at and your market. And then you got to be able to push it. You got to be able to go out, go visit people all the time, go to events, and be the people's person and, make sure that they're succeeding on the ground for you. And you in return are going to succeed as a brand. So it takes a lot of work.
It does, and you mentioned the price point. We see that. Kerr and I saw that at PCA on some of these boutique companies. That they don't have very many cigars, and man, you're seeing them. They've got 2 or 3 blends. Either they're debuting or they've only been around for 2 or 3 years, and every cigar is 18, 20, 22, $25, and it's just like, how are you doing this? Like, you don't have to recoup. I mean, all of us here know how much it costs to make cigars, so to come out with a $25 cigar or more as your initial blend, it's just like, we know, it's like, man, you're trying to recoup all your money fast. It's like, it's like you need to scale that back. It's that 12 to 15, you're right there, that $15 price point. That's like the norm now. You know, a few years ago, $15 was creeping up on the high side, but now like every cigar is $15. You know, it's at $12, $15 price point. So, but yeah, it's I think that's one of the failure points of a lot of these smaller companies is just the pricing. They've just priced themselves out before they even
Yeah.
get started.
I mean, you know, when you're coming in, like I just speak for myself, you know, coming into the industry, you know, who am I? You know, most people don't know you. They're like, okay, you have great cigars. I don't know you. You know, and for them to initially gonna give you a try and say, okay, let me buy the cigar, it has to fit in a sort of pricing to where it's like, okay, you know what? Let me give it a try. You know, and when I first started out, I made sure it was that $11 to $12 stick. Now, obviously, we have a range of $6 something to all the way to like $25 cigar. But in the beginning, it was at $11 to $12. That's what I focused on for a good year and a half. And then eventually, I brought out my, you know, $18, $25, $16 cigars, and then I waited until towards like recently to where I launched. I call it the budget series. They're still great cigars. I can easily sell them for $9, $10, but you know, I wanted to get into a market for under the $8 cigar, and those are the $6 to $7 cigars that I came out. And I didn't want to do that in the beginning, you know, because you have to kind of watch out too, you know, for guys that are watching this and maybe trying to get in. You also have to remember is you want yourself to be a premium brand. You can't come out with those cheap cigars, you know, cheaper cigars in the beginning, because then people are going to think that maybe because of the price, it's not a good cigar. So that was the decision I had to make early on, saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to come out. People think that that's what it is, and it's not. But it's just that the mentality behind the price. People have they look at it, they say, oh, it's this dollar, it must be this.
You know, that's it. You know, I do a lot of you know, when I create a new product, I do a lot of like focus group testing with friends in the industry, then people I know but I'm really not friends with. And you know, when you come out with, you know, there's always a like I'll ask people like a price point, like what would you pay for this, and then what's the price point where you wouldn't pay for it, but then what's the price point where you think that it's too cheap, that there's something wrong with it and you won't buy it either. You know, and that comes into like cigars. You know, there are a lot of great $6 cigars, $7, $8 cigars, but you go into it you know, knowing that's what you're getting. Even though, I mean, there's I've smoked $6 cigars that can very well be priced at $15. But you go into it, you're like, it's you know, it's a $6 cigar. You know, if I'm in a lounge, it's like, do I really want, you know, I'm in a new town, you know, like I'm heading out of town this weekend. And it's like, I kind of want more than a $6 cigar, even though, you know, there's probably nothing wrong with it. So, you know, but yeah, so at least you didn't start off as a budget cigar company and then try and raise your prices, because that's really, really tough. You know, people listen when Amin tells you that, you know.
Speaking of price raising, I haven't raised any of my prices since day one. You know, and a lot of people, you know, with the whole tariffs, you know, they were asking me, I said, and I publicly told them, I said, I am not going to raise any of our price. I'll absorb it, you know, because you guys all know, you've been in the industry, that, you know, we know how tariffs work and how it gets tariffed on what. So in reality, I could absorb it if I'm running a, you know, solid business model. So and I'm not gouging anyone bit by the price. I'm not here to do that. But for me as a company, I decided that I'm not going to do that. So I kept the same price. And of course, you know, eventually down the line, you know, a year, 2 years down the road, you know, things are going to change, and I will have to raise some prices, but it ain't going to be drastic price changes. Yeah, but that's going to be way down.
Yeah, it's easier to eat the tariffs on a $15 to $20 cigar than it is to eat the tariff on a $6 cigar, because your margins are that much more tighter. And it's just like, you know, now you're like, okay, maybe if I sell more, you know, $18 cigars, that'll make up for eating the 6. And at the end of the day, maybe I'll make the same amount of money. But, you know, and then Nicaragua is not the easiest place the last 2 years, you know, of making cigars either, you know, with the government and everything else. So it's
Yeah, just tobacco itself, the demand is high. There's not a lot of
Yeah.
people, in the growing part, or if there is, they're not selling to you, or they're really selling it at a high price. So with us, we got, like I said, I'm blessed because with us, we're growing a lot of tobacco. So we're able to keep that cost at a certain point to where we can absorb some of these costs, extra costs, and being able to survive these weird times when it comes to the tobacco industry.
Yeah, I didn't know. I don't even think Nick mentioned that when you're on the show. If he did, I didn't catch it. I didn't know that MGE guys they grew their own tobacco. So that
Yeah,
makes
80%, 80% of our tobacco is our own.
that makes it a whole lot easier. And then it makes the consistency a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
I know like when I'm rolling mine, so I want to pick tobaccos that are readily available to that farm. People like we met guys at PCA, I've got 9 different tobaccos and I put this in it and I put this in it. And I'm thinking there's no way you can have a consistent cigar. It's impossible.
Yeah, that helps a lot. You nailed it, man. Because you go to a place, let's say manufacturer, you buy some tobacco, and let's say it's already limited tobacco, and you do a batch, and then your next round, maybe you have a little bit left. You do that batch, great. Your next one, you go back, you're like, well, we don't have that tobacco anymore. Now we're going to go serve something close to it. It's coming out of a total different farm. It's aged a different way. It's fermented a different way. There's no way you're going to have close enough consistencies, even though it's like the same type of tobacco, same ratio, same this in the blend. It's just not going to come out even close. So even when you have your own farming and your own process, if you go back to a couple of years later, it's still going to be a little bit different. You got a lot of things to factor in, but at least it's close enough to where the consumer's not going to be like, "What in the world am I smoking?"
Yeah. So tell us about your first visit to the factory. Was that like a mind-blowing experience for you?
Oh man, I'll never forget it. And it's one of those things that, there's things that happens to you in life that you'll never forget, and you always want to like make that happen that same way again. That's that. So we always talk about it, and me and Nick, like, man, you remember that? You remember this? But yeah, for somebody who's got this passion, and you create something, and you finally go down there, and you meet the whole team, and you go visit the farm, you go visit everything, and it's just I don't know, it's a life-changing thing that you'll never forget.
That's it. You go down there and you drink a bunch of tequila and you almost die, and then you never forget the moments like that. At least that's what I hear.
Tequila, rum, scotch, whiskey, Cognac beers. Oh my God, bro! Everything. Yeah, we had it all.
Yeah,
we work hard. During the day, we get up early. We go visit the farms. We do what we need to do with my blender and the tobacco blending and the manufacturing stuff, things like that. At nighttime, okay, we're gonna go get some great dinners. We're gonna eat well, and then all right, the drinks start coming out, and we're drinking, and we're talking business. We're having fun. And the next day, oh shit, we are feeling it. But let's go. It's and when you're down there and you're in that environment of your creativity part, you just get up and you get it done. So even if you're hungover and you're feeling like that, it doesn't matter. It's like, let's go. Your energy comes back.
Oh yeah, and Nick had mentioned something. You guys were drinking some tequila one night with the factory team.
Oh my God, yeah, I got so fucked up with that tequila too, and it hit me so hard, so fast. But thankfully, it wasn't like I was like that the whole night. It got there like real quick. Nick looked at me, I looked at him. He was like, "You feeling it?" I was like, "I'm fucking feeling this." And then like 30 minutes later, I was like, chill, no problem. Smoking, it was like a real fast peak to that moment. One of our buddies, he's like the big macho guy too, and he was drinking and he was done. And I looked at him, I was like, bro, I'm like the lightweight over here. You're the macho guy. So it was kind of funny, but
Oh, I couldn't imagine spending a night drinking and then having to get up in like July in Nicaragua and go to the factory or a farm. And it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
just that's got to be the worst.
It's really not. That's the thing, because when you're in what we do and you're there, it's like, what are you doing it for? What's going to happen next is what keeps you going, right? So it's kind of like the same thing what happened with PCA. When I was going to PCA, I drove down there with my stuff, and it was a 14-hour drive. I drove the first round when I went there. I drove for 11 and a half hours. I was coming off some weird thing that I was on antibiotics, so I was already worn out. But when I got there, I mean, it was like, this is go time. So you get up, you get it done. I slept for like 3 hours, 4 hours a night, kept doing it again, and it just, it's one of those things. Your adrenaline kicks in. It's like, this is go time. Got to get shit done.
To talk about all this alcohol and tequila, what do you have it doesn't necessarily have to be alcohol, but what do you like to pair a cigar with?
Oh,
what's your favorite?
Man. I mean, my usually go-tos is going to be scotch and whiskey most of the time, but I do pair some with some tequila. Not so much vodka. I'm not a big beer drinker, so I don't do that with beer either. I haven't found wines that, I kind of like pairing with. So my main would be scotch, whiskey, and tequila.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've years ago I tried drinking vodka, but just straight up. I don't like it mixed with anything, so it's just chilled straight up. And drinking that when smoking a cigar was definitely different. And one thing that I found is it cleansed my palate. So I would be smoking, I'd take a sip of the vodka, it tasted good, but it cleansed my palate, and it allowed me to actually enjoy the cigar and get even more flavors out of it, because it there's a number of things you can try and drink and what have you to cleanse your palate, but vodka was really one of the most efficient and best tasting drinks that I had, that cleansed my palate and allowed me to really enjoy the cigar.
And that's how I feel with tequila, because when I drink tequila, it's straight. I take it as shots, and I don't like so much. And that's actually why I like pairing it with that. Is that reason? I enjoy the tequila, of course, and then right after it cleanses my palate a little bit, and I'm like, oh, man, I got that flavor back. I like those notes.
Now, how long did it take you, being in the cigar industry, to be frustrated with the timetable of the factory in Nicaragua? Because they're on, because you're a businessman, you're a go-getter, like the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're dealing with a factory in another country, like, things move a little slower than here in the States. Like, it's a big thing that we get with a lot of like boutique cigar owners. Like, I didn't know it took so long, to do this, or to get a phone call, or to get a blend. Does that ever happen with you? Or
we don't have that problem at all. Like I said, bro, I'm blessed because of the relationship I have with Miguel and Nick, and just the team at the factory. I'm very hands-on with them, so I've never had that issue, thankfully. And I know a lot of guys have these issues, and it is sad, but for me, I've been blessed. I've been blessed with my guys. I love them all, and we just have a great team. I don't have those issues at all.
Oh, that's great. And like I said, it's good to have a good team. It's good to have someone like Nick that's been in the industry for a couple of years that you can lean on. Do you find yourself leaning less on him now, or maybe trying to, like, hey, it's like, I wonder what Nick would think, but it's just like, what, let me try and figure this out on my own. I've been doing this for a couple of years. Like, I need to not lean. Do you ever get that, or is it always, he's like, just anytime, call me anytime, don't?
Well, Nick is awesome, bro. He's always been open arms. He's always let me know if there's anything, just give me a call. Same with Miguel and the fact that everybody. But for me, it's a mixture. There has to be some times that just any business I've done. You know, I had to find that good ratio of like, hey, what am I going to have to go figure out on my own and get in there, get dirty, figure it out, fail, learn that way versus, you know, just always reaching out, asking for, you know, an input or something like that. So it's just kind of a mixture, and you kind of find your way as you go through, and it gets better because, you know, obviously time, wisdom, and experience, you know, makes you a little bit better person in anything. But I'm always the guy that wants to learn. So there's always something for me to learn. That I don't think there will ever be until the day we all die that I would not call him and say, hey, bro, what do you think of this? Because, you know, we're all trying to learn more and more every day.
And that's the key. Just keep learning. Did you learn a lot from PCA? Now I know you were founded in 2022. Was this your first PCA, or have you been before? Even
No,
you know,
this was my first one going and being part of it.
okay,
Yeah.
so even
Wow,
going, okay.
Yeah, I've never been. You know, I've always, you know, just heard stories and seen videos and, you know, things like that. But yeah, this was my first time ever going, and I didn't know what to expect. Obviously, my first time, but even, you know, knowing that, okay, it was in Vegas for a long time, now it's New Orleans. You know, so we were all kind of like figuring out what's going to happen this last year, and surprisingly, it went amazing. You know, like I said, I met a lot of great guys, you guys as well, and just this feedback we got, you know, being our first time as a new brand out there was great. So it really helped understanding what needs to happen in this next year to get back, do it even bigger and better. So it's amazing, bro. I can't say anything bad about it.
Yeah, you know, and I don't know if bigger is better. You got a good write up. Bert over at Half Wheel gave you guys some mad props over your booth. You know, and it was concise. I think I've got the photo here. I mean, it was a good looking booth. It wasn't over the top. It was clean. You know, I would say, you know, out of the boutique guys, and not just because you're on the show, you probably had one of the nicest booths. And I didn't think about it until I read, I think it was Bert that from Half Wheel that wrote that article. And it was like having the boxes at like eye level, you know, not bent over, not behind a glass. Like it was all right there. And I'm reading that and I'm like, you know what? I did like that. You know, it's like, I you know, like it was like subconscious, but it's like, oh, I really did like that. Like that was a good clean look. You know, I don't know if you got a chance to walk around. There were a lot of other boutiques. The booths were cluttered. They didn't look good. They just weren't done right, you know, but you guys had a great look, nice and clean, and just everything on display.
Thank you so much, bro. Thank you. Yeah, you know, I had to decide really on my first round. I wanted to do that with the space we had because, you know, this first year we just did a 10 by 10, so it's kind of small. You know, when you get there, especially you're setting it up, you realize, holy shit, this is kind of small. So, you know, it was for the amount of space I had, I was like, how do I make it work right? You know, especially with that many cigars. You know, a lot of the guys that come out, even some of the bigger companies, you know, they don't have 16 things on display. Yeah, so it was one of those things that I had to really pick and choose how I want to lay this thing out. And I said, I also want it to where it's in your face a little bit, not in a bad way, but I want you to get attention to it and then just come right to it. It's right there. And that's where the whole thought process came of making a high riser table in your face kind of deal. And we definitely got some good feedback on that. You know, I was kind of worried about it because I was like, this is not the norm. This is not what anybody really does. And I said, I'm just going to do it. That's kind of how I am. You'll see this as you're watching, you know, and you follow me in the future too. And that's kind of how I do things. I try to do things a little bit more out of the norm. You know, that's kind of like what we did with the Connecticut Triple Air or Komodo Dragon.
You know, and I want to get into that one in a second, you know, and you guys had a good booth location too. I didn't think so at the beginning, but you were back by the bathrooms, you know, so the bathrooms were all the way tucked in the back. And I don't know if we'd have found you if I didn't have to, if I about pissed my pants having to find a treble a half a mile, from the beginning to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, oh, hey, look, Emami, Kerr's like, hey, we should talk to these guys. I'm like, yeah, let's, we're right here next to Nick anyways. He was running late. So that was a good, some of the guys, not so much of a good booth location.
No,
but you guys had a good one.
But you said something, sure, Kevin. It's when I was talking to Amina, and now that you mention it, and you start talking about the booth, the height. Now that I look back on it, I was like, because we did the interview in front of the booth, and everything was at eye level. It wasn't looking down. It wasn't, and nobody was bending over. It was at that perfect height and display of all your products. It was a very sharp and I think a visually friendly and appealing height and booth itself.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And so how did you do? Did you sign up a lot of new accounts? How did that go?
Like I said, for our first year, going there and being there, it was amazing. So we definitely signed up new accounts, new territories that we weren't in, because, just being in Kansas, that's all I focused on for all these years. So Kansas, Missouri side, once we got there, we kind of started branching out. And so it was great. And it's still great. We're still getting calls from people, hey, we give your booth, we tried the cigar, we loved it. Let's get moving on something. And so it's still coming in. So that's the thing with the newer brands coming out with PCA. I encourage you that not to get worried, because I know a lot of guys are like, we didn't expect this. Expectation was higher. It's not there, but you got to think about it. As this time passes by your next year and even your second year coming back, is when some of the guys that maybe didn't want to give you a try. In the second year they'll probably come back and say, "Oh, they're back. Their cigars were good. Let's give them a try." So I think you got to think about it that way. But for us, it's still coming in, so it's great.
Yeah, and I know some retailers, and I won't name names because I know a couple of them have said it online, but their rule is it's 3 years. Like if they see you after 3 years, and then like, okay, these guys they're in it for the long haul. It's right. Like the guys that are there 1 year and you never see them again. And it's like, well, I'm glad I didn't buy. It's like who knows what that would have been. So some retailers, it does take a couple of years of them seeing you. And they'll be like, you know what, I'll give you guys a shot. You've been here, hustling for a few years now, which makes it nice. Was there, I know you guys sell on your own website. Sometimes that's a sticking point. Sometimes it's not. Did that ever come up? Like, someone's like, hey, it's, I kind of like to do business with you, but I also don't want to compete with you. Has that come up yet?
No. And the reason I think is because, well, one, we let them know right off the bat that, hey, we also have our online, but all of our online prices are higher. So we strategically price our prices higher online. Yeah, so that way we don't compete with the retailers, because we want people to go to the retail shop. If they're scanning a QR code, they're going to our website, they see that, oh, this cigar is $15 on the website, but I can get it here for 12 something. I'm going to get it here. So it's like a way for us to help the retailers understand that the consumer, they will be more than likely wanting to come to you. So we want it that way. So we try not to price it in a way to where we would never compete with them in a bad way. So and I think that helps. That helps. But no, we haven't had anybody really complain about it. Obviously, they ask us, "Do you do it?" And then we tell them that, they're like, "We love that," and there's never been a problem.
That's good. Like I said, and not all retailers care. Some, as long as, like I said, they can't go to your website and see that, hey, I got this 5-pack on sale this week, for $8, cheaper than what I can sell it. So that's always a plus. Now, do Do you I was on your website. I love the website. You know, everybody knows if there's something wrong with your website, Kerr's laughing right now because I'm gonna tell you if there's something wrong with your website. I have told so many people like your website sucks, man. Your website's really good. I love it. It's intuitive. It's that simple. It's that 3-click rule. I want to be able to, within 3 clicks, I want to be able to buy something on any website. So on yours, that's definitely there. Do you have a retail finder? Like, I didn't notice it. I didn't delve into every aspect of the site.
We do, which is we need to go update that, especially after PC. We've added so many, and we haven't really updated those yet. So that's our fault for not doing that. But we do have a section that says retailers that you can go through. And once we update that, there'll be a lot more of them on there. But we're looking into an API deal where it'll be a little bit easier, so we could just pop it in and populate it for us. Because right now, it's literally everything has to be manually put in. You know,
Yeah.
one name, address, map, this, that. It's a lot of work when you're doing it that way. But eventually, we're going to add in this API that plug in to where you just put in the company's name, and it just goes and finds it from Google, and it populates everything in.
Oh, okay. That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into some of your cigars. We've been talking for an hour and 40 minutes. Let's actually get into some of your cigars. Let's start off with the Komodo. I smoked one I think last night and loved it. Someone I think Anthony Giannis, I think he was on here. Yeah, he was on here earlier. And he had like made a comment, you know, it's like, oh, hey, that might be a Jessica cigar, not like a Kevin cigar. Cause my wife loves the fuller bodied cigars in your face, you know, like more nicotine. And I like a little bit more medium cigars. So I loved it. I didn't even let her try it. It was such a great cigar. So tell us like the story behind the, what's that?
I think I only sent you one, so now I need to send you more, so that way your wife can try it.
So
Yeah,
I've got 2 of the Komodos. You know, this is the lighter one. I'm assuming that's Habano or Ecuadorian Connecticut, or what is?
Connecticut, yes. But it's still a pretty full cigar. It's just not as intense as the Madurum one that you smoked. Yeah. But I'll make sure that I send you guys, both of you guys, some more cigars, so you can have some sharing capabilities if you wanted to.
Yeah, I don't share. Jennifer just goes in and says, "Hey, I'm gonna try this." Okay, thanks, honey.
I'll send 2 packaging to your house. One to your name and one.
So it was a full bodied cigar. I mean, it was a little on the stronger side, but it wasn't like you know you were sweating. You know, you didn't have that head pounding. It was just a really good. It was just a good full bodied cigar. So tell us about, you know, like why Komodo. Tell us a little bit about the blends of those cigars.
Yeah. So obviously we had our 5. I had cereals by this time. And I said, what have I not done? And I said, I haven't really done very nice full cigar. Because, you know, our lineup, I don't know if you smoked all of them by now or not. You know, we have some fuller cigars, but they're not that full. You know, they're well balanced. They're medium to full. So, you know, for me and my palate, some guys, you know, smoking and say they're full cigars. And I said, I need to do something that's a much fuller type of blend. And that's where the Komodo came in. And, you know, then I said to myself, you know, I also want to do 2 different versions because I want to create this myth that Connecticut can't be full. And I went back to the factory. I said, listen, I want to do 2 full cigars. One's going to be the San Andres, the Doro, this type of thing. They said, oh, that sounds amazing. Are you sure you want to go that full like that? I said, yes. I want to make it that full, but well balanced. The key is it has to be well balanced where it's not hitting your mouth, but it has the muscle behind it. Then I brought up, I'm going to do also a Connecticut. They're like, what? I said, yeah, I'm going to do a Connecticut version of it too. Like, are you sure? No one really wants to do that. No one really does it. Because remember, people are going to look at Connecticut. They're going to say it's just wild. I said, but listen, I'm going to do Komodo series. This is the full cigar. I'm going to put it side by side. I'm going to say both are full cigars. One's got more flavor. One's got more intensity flavor. And the intriguing fact of someone looking at it side by side and saying, there's no way this Connecticut's going to be a cigar, Velvet now. And once you smoke that Connecticut, you kind of give you feedback on it too. But that's kind of where it all started, of just wanting something more fuller, but not, again, in your mouth, right? I didn't want it to be like you smoke it and you're like, man, I can't smoke this thing. Some full cigars you smoke and in you're like, I'm done. Like I can't do this. This is this was a more balanced full cigar to where once you get down towards the middle and towards the end, that nicotine's building up, and now you're feeling it in your body to where okay, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling this, yeah, but not like making you crash.
Yeah, and that's what, like you said, that's what I got out of that cigar. It's fuller bodied, but it wasn't ass kicking. So, which made it nice.
Too. You smoke. The guys that smoke a lot of cigars that have this tolerance for nicotine, it's actually great, amazing cigar experience for them. The guys that don't really smoke, or they're like once in blue moon smokers, and they say, "Oh, I love full cigars." They smoke that. They're in for an experience, right?
Yeah.
So we've had guys that are like that were sweating and needed chocolate real fast and things like that. But again, those are the guys that are like once in the blue moon type of guys. But for us that smoke all the time, this is a very pleasant full cigar.
Yeah, and what size? Because like the cigar gentleman, I like the size of that Komodo. I loved that size. Like that was the good. What's that?
It's a Churchill size.
Oh, is it? I did look. I mean, is it a church? Yeah, it just looked. I don't know. Looked. I like the length. It was the perfect. I don't know. I really enjoy. I know it was like a 2-hour smoke. It was. It wasn't a fast cigar.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a good 2-hour smoke. Churchill size. It's got that nice pigtail on it that resembles like the tail of the Komodo or tongue of Komodo. However you want to look at it, and so it's very like when you see it, you're like, what is this thing? Because of that pigtail.
So let's move on to the one I know. Kerr before the show, we was talking about the one he's interested in smoking, the 10 by 38 double Lancero, the Alexander. First of all, when you approached the factory, did they have a mold for a 10 by 38? Like what was the?
We were lucky. We were lucky because they had a client a long time ago that Miguel did that specially wanted some double Lanceros, and he said, "You won't believe it, me. I have them all." And when he said that, I was like, "You're fucking kidding me. Let's fucking go." So, and the whole thing behind that double Lancero was that I said, I want to do something like that Lancero, but I want it to be special. I want something longer, something just unique. And then that conversation came to, we have this mold, we have this client, we did this for him. And I said, that's fucking perfect. We need to do that. But then I said, I need something very special for the tobacco. It has to be like this long aged. And he said, shit, we need to go get it. So we had to go to AJ and, source some of that. But I was like, this has to be a very special cigar. And I wanted to name it after my son, and he's a year and, it's 13 and a half months now. And I was like, I want to give this, name it after my son, the Alexander series. His name is Alexander. So when he grows up, I can say, look, this was the special cigar, dude, and it's your cigar. So that's kind of how that whole Devil Lancero came to life.
Now, what's the wrapper on that?
It's Ecuadorian Habano. It's an Ecuadorian Habano, and if you see my blends and know me, I love the Ecuadorian Habano, I love the Ecuadorian Connecticut, and I love the San Andres. So it's like those three wrappers are like my top 3 favorites wrappers. And so I said I want to do that, but it has to be very well aged, long aged. And now you look at it, it's considering how long we've had this tobacco, it's 8 years age.
Wow. Now is that one leaf? Because as a cigar guy, I'm like, where are you getting these freak leaves from? You know, this leaf has to be this big in order to roll a 7.5 by 38. You know, just like it's like, you know, and
10 by 38.
yeah, a 10 by 38.
10 by 38. So
but yeah,
that's
it's just
a special tobacco, bro. I'm telling you, it's a very special tobacco, very special cigar size. You know, only like 2 out of our 40 something rollers can are
yeah.
mastering enough to even do that.
Oh, I
You know,
imagine.
that it's very hard to roll. There's a lot of room for errors in that cigar, so getting it right, yeah, it's just very tough. So it's a special, very very special cigar.
I can only imagine. I know how difficult it is. I mean, not personally of rolling a Lancero, but talking with every manufacturer, you know, like not everybody in the factory can roll Lanceros. They'll usually have a team, you know, this group of rollers over here. But then when you're, you know, a 10 by 38, you know, it just you literally you're almost doubling the amount, like you said, the amount of things that can go wrong inside that cigar. There's so much, I mean, so many places for that tobacco to go wrong, you know, to be, you know, to have short spots in the middle or overpacked and, you know, having to roll. I'd love to see him rolling that, you know,
I was
that
gonna say you gotta have videos of that because that has got to be pretty impressive. You know, it's impressive enough to watch someone roll Lancero, but something that
Yeah.
I'll do when I go back the next round is I'll get some videos of that. You know, you're right. I've got videos of everything except for that, and I'm surprised I haven't done it. Yeah, so that's a good point. I should probably do that and market that. You know, but it is a secret sauce. So a lot of the times, you know, you don't want some of the other factories to kind of look at it and learn of how this process is being done. We won't show the whole process, but I'll show some parts.
Yeah, you know, and as a social media guy, you know, like that creates videos, that watches other videos for inspiration. I can tell you as the videos I see that get the most traction on all of the platforms are the videos, and we've all seen we've seen thousands of videos of rolling cigars, packing cigars, whatever. Those get the most views, hands down. You know, you could be having someone's Instagram, their video, each of their posts could get 10 views or 100 views. As soon as they post a video of rolling a cigar, it's 1,000 views. It's 2,000. It's 3,000. So as a social media guy, if that's one piece of advice that I could get you, especially if you're, you know, obviously, you know, if you go to the factory for a day or two, even, you know, you could film a couple of hours of video and then break that down into 50, you know, 3-minute clips, 2-minute clips. So just remember that next time you get some good videos of putting cellophane on. I'll watch a video. I'll watch a dozen videos of putting cigars in cellophane. I don't know what it is. Putting bands on, putting them in the boxes. It's just something about us cigar nerds that just love watching how the sausage is made. You know, so.
No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I love it myself. You know, I love the process. And that's the thing. A lot of guys, you know, when they see the process, they really need to appreciate it too, because it takes a lot of work, you know, farming side, you know, the aging side, you know, and then the rolling side and packaging side, all of these processes, you know, there's so many things that happens. And, you know, when you get to see these processes, you know, people are like, oh my God, I did not know that all of this shit has to happen for me to smoke a cigar. You know, how many hands have, you know, gone through and all these things. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Well, let's move on. So your neck. Oh, then you also have a short Lancero, a 7.5 by 38, more of a normal human size. It's called the Poco Havana. So you've got, did you do the double Lancero first and then come out with the short Lancero, or is it vice versa?
I did them together, and the reason I did that is because I knew that a lot of people are going to be afraid of the double Lancero. It's kind of intimidating. You know, you see that and you're like, holy shit, I've never seen it. I don't know what to do with this thing. So, but in the regular Lancero, they're more likely to be like, I'll give that a try. So that's why I said I want to do one regular size and one very unique double size. roll them out together. One's holding the one's hand. It's like, I got you, buddy. I got you. Don't worry.
So is it the same blend in a shorter size, or is it a completely different blend?
There's a little twist and a difference there, but it's so like very, very minimal. It's very hard to tell. But it really comes down to the size, and that's what makes the Devil Lancero so special. Is because once you get towards that last third of it, that the other one doesn't give you, there's a whole different profile change that you're not going to get on the short one. So that's really why I love the Devil Lancero, is because of that part of the dandy. It's just that's a sweet spot. Once you get to that last third, that you just got that whole build up. That's just I don't know. Once you smoke it, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, but by the time you get to that last third on that double Lancero, you've got all of that hot smoke that have been drawing through that cigar for the last 90 minutes. The tobacco's heated up. So you're going to have a lot of, I imagine you probably have a lot of changes. Like it'd be 100%, there's, different than the first and second, third by far.
Totally different, and it's in a good way. And it's just like I said, it's the sweet spot of that Devil Lancero. And I mean, both of them are great, right? But it's just that one Devil Lancero at that part of that cigar. It's like, you're like, oh shit, I was not expecting that.
So on the double, is that a little bit more limited of a run just because of the tobacco? I imagine it's probably being able to produce a lot less of that cigar.
Yeah, we do limited series of those. We sold out right after PCA pretty fast. We have more coming in the works right now as we speak. But we do limited runs on the Devil Lancero for sure. Short one, not so much. But yeah, they're very unique tobacco and limited series. So it's only a few allocation for everybody.
All right, and then the next cigar I want to talk about, because I'm going to bring this one down to my buddy Abe at Smoke Inn when I go down to visit him this weekend. His daughter's name is Petra, named after the place. I'm assuming that you named your cigar after the place Petra. Do you have a relationship with that place? Have you been to Petra? I've always wanted to go.
No, not at all. I've never been, and I'd love to go too. So I'm a history nerd. Like I love watching history and like architecture and all these things. And I pick these places that are like on my bucket list or I fall in love with just for all different reasons. And Petra was one of them. And like Pompeii is another one that we have. So for me it was just like when I was smoking it, and what I was feeling, and just I go into this daydreaming. I don't know how to even call it. It's not hallucinating, but like, I think and I dream, and I was like, man, what does this remind me of? Where I want to be? And I was like, I think Petra, and it just came out to be Petra. So it's like, you have these moments in life. You see something, you think of something, and then you feel something later, and it kind of brings them together, and then there comes out the name for the cigar, Petra.
And then what can you tell us about the cigar?
So that cigar, it's got an Oscuro Maduro wrapper. It's got some jalapa inside and a lot of Nicaragua wind fillers. So it's gonna give you. You guys haven't smoked it yet?
No, you sent me one, and I'm gonna give it to Abe. His daughter's name is Petra. I think it'll be special. He would love to smoke a cigar with the name of his daughter on there, and maybe that'll be an smoke in. Maybe he'll like it. He'll call you up. I'm like, hey, I like this.
I'll make sure I send both of you guys extras.
Yeah.
Like you guys all need to be able to smoke all, but you're gonna get some notes for me at least. Everybody's palates are gonna be a little different, sometimes. But we blended it to where it's like, okay, I want something to where it starts out with some spice, not too much at all, very subtle, but it graduates into this chocolatey, some espresso notes in there, and it's just mainly a good natural, sweet, little spice with this chocolatey espresso notes.
And then you mentioned Pompeii, another place I've always wanted. I want to see. I want to see the village. I want to see like the people. I want to kind of be there, you know, and kind of experience, you know, not experience what they experience, but you know,
You
but-
walk that one back, Kev.
yeah, walk that one back real quick. What can you tell us about the Pompeii?
So the story behind, the story behind Pompeii, because you're kind of resembling this, the history of it. So, it's a beautiful place that, they discovered after thousands of years that it just uncovered out of the volcanic ashes, right? So it's the cigar. I did this devil wrap on the Pompeii. It was a devil wrap. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm smoking it. And I'm like, it's a very unique blend. It's got that spice, it's got that boldness, but it's also got a very nice finishing ending to it, to where I'm like, man, it's devil wrap. What does it remind me of? And I was like, it's kind of got that lava look to it. And it clicked to me. I was like, it's kind of like Pompeii. You know how it was like lava came down and destroyed this thing, but finally, years later, it resurrects and this beautiful thing out of these ashes, volcanic ashes that you get to enjoy. And it's got this sweet, thing about it. And I was like, that's what this cigar reminds me of. That's why I said, I'm going to call it Pompeii.
I love the story behind Pompeii because like the story behind Troy, they thought it was just a story. They never thought it was a real place. It was just a story that was. It only had one person, just one guy escape Pompeii. That was it. If it wasn't for that one person to tell that story, and then for 1,000 years, people thought he made it up. And then so like I said, same thing with Troy. And then they find it. And then it's just like, holy shit, it's like this place was real. And, heartbreaking to see some of the people, that were, entombed in the ash. But yeah, definitely another bucket list place that I want to go. And then we got time for talk about one more cigar, the Victoria. What's the story behind Victoria?
So my wife's name is Victoria. I named that after my wife, La Bella Victoria, and the Delicioso. It's a pretty delicious cigar, but I was like, and I did that before I did the Alexander or so. I was like, I got to name one for my wife. So I chose that one, and I said, I'm going to do this sweet, nice, Delicioso San Andres after my wife, La Bella Victoria. And that's actually, that's one of our top sellers. It's one of our top sellers, which I know my wife loves the shit out of it. Because every time that happens and somebody gives me a compliment on it, that same thing, I'm like, hey, guess what? Guess what this person told me today? Or did she see the post? This was my favorite cigar, the La Bella Victoria. I said, she takes the credit for it, but why not? It's her cigar anyway.
So what are you smoking the most of? On any given day.
I smoke so many, and just so you guys know, I don't just smoke my own cigars. I smoke a lot of different cigars too, but it just depends on my mood. My thing isn't more about if it's morning or night or this. It's more about how am I feeling, and how do I want to feel when I smoke a cigar. So, every time I smoke a cigar, there's a feeling I'm getting, if I'm getting, I don't know how to explain it, deeper than, just saying that I get a certain feeling from it. And, for me, it's like, well, I know that feeling. So if I'm in this mood, I want to have that feeling, then I go to that cigar. So I tend to, change it around all the time. So I might have a Cyrus in the morning, or I might have a freaking Komodo in the morning. You go light or go on full. Doesn't matter. It's just if I feel like it.
Oh, right. And like I said, I'm the same way. Sometimes I'll be in my humidor. I have a walk-in humidor and just stand there for 30 minutes. It's like, what am I in the mood for? It's and
yeah, I do that all the time.
Yeah,
I could go there. I'm just literally just looking around like, all right,
yeah.
I know on this one right now.
Yeah. That's it. One last question before we let you go. how do you balance, you have several businesses. The cigar business obviously takes a shit ton of time. This is not an easy business to be in. How do you balance your work life with my wife Jessica's always complaining. I work too much. I neglect the family. I'm trying to build an empire for my family. Do you get that as well? I mean, how's that work life balance? We hear that a lot.
Our wives, we're blessed, first of all, that we have these amazing wives that, put up with our bullshit sometimes, right? So, shout out to all of our wives out there like that are supporting us. But I get that too, and I've been getting that for years. Obviously, I've been doing many things all this times, and I've been working 80, 90 hours a week for a very long time. And the work-life balance is always a challenge, but the key thing I think is that, if we're on the same page on the why behind it does help. So for me, it's like I'm building a legacy. I'm building something to where my son can hopefully take over, for his son and the next generation. It's the foundation is built. So that's really the giving that freedom to my family for the long term. So I'm willing to sacrifice a lot and to lay that foundation. And I think, when your wife, eventually, will see that, and yeah, you have your days, Bob, I'm seeing you this many days this week, and you got to make the time as much as possible when you can. But it is hard. It is very hard. Very hard.
I'm definitely I'm going to replay this part for Jessica just so she knows I'm not the only one. So that
Good luck with that.
Yeah. Good luck with that. For sure. I mean, we definitely. I can't. It's been over 2 hours. I can't believe it. It has flown by.
I know.
We definitely appreciate you coming on, spending a couple hours of your Monday night with us. It's been fantastic. We absolutely love talking with you, hearing your story. Anybody that's interested, down in the video description, podcast description, if you're listening to this, you can follow Amin on all the social medias, as well as Cigar Prop, Stogie Road Cigars, blah blah blah. But definitely, if you're at your local brick and mortar, and you see one of the cigars, beautiful packaging, beautiful boxing, pick one up. Try that double Lancero if they have it. Let me know how long it took you to smoke it. And then I don't know, hopefully if you're in the lounge, you see a cigars, you remember this conversation, and just pick one up.
You definitely will not be disappointed. I got to tell you.
Yes.
It was the sleeper company from my trip to PCA. It was one that just really wowed me.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. I don't know. Every time I do something like this, I always ask, the host, you guys, I'll ask you guys this. If you guys want to do a giveaway on your show, I'm more than willing to do that. I usually do say, hey, pick 3 guys that on the show. I don't know what StreamYard that might have an option to where you can just make it easy or not. But the viewers, if you want to do something like that, I'm more than willing to send out 3 assorted, fresh packs to your viewers as a thank you for even, allowing us to be here together and watching this and, supporting all of us. So if you wanted to do that, I'm willing to do that too.
It's tough because of YouTube and Facebook. When you do giveaways, we've been popped before for that.
Oh, really?
So what I'll tell you what I'll do is everybody make sure you're following the Cigar Prop Instagram page. So next week, and I'll put it out on my newsletter as well. So if you go to my website, you can sign up for my newsletter. Instagram's easier, and then I usually get thousands of people following over there. I will enjoy an Emami Cigars. I'll make sure I post that is a giveaway post, and we'll do some giveaways for some Emami cigars, and then like I said, I'll send that out via my newsletter as well, so people can get it on that. So and then I'll let you know, Amin, and we'll definitely get some people. So make sure you're following Cigar Prop on Instagram, and we'll definitely get the giveaway over there. So
That's just the way I want to say thank you, for watching this. And I appreciate every one of you. I love you guys for having me on. So it was an honor. Yeah, just want to say thank you.
oh, you're quite welcome. Kerr, as always, any final parting words before we end the show?
No, just I mean, this is another testament that you don't. Sometimes you stumble upon a fantastic and unique brand without really expecting it. So when you go in your humidors in your lounges, take a look around and see what other brands are on there. Ask your tobacconist any new brands, and if you give it Emami Cigars a try, and you enjoy them, make sure you bring the cigar band, all 8 of them, to the to the to your to the tobacconist and let them know they need to bring it in. This is something they need to try. That's how that's how a lot of these they go to PCA, but a lot throughout the year, a lot of these lounges will bring in products based off of what their regular customers are bringing in and asking about, because they know if they're coming in and they're talking about it, they're going to come in, they're going to buy it. They want to get a hold of it.
Yeah, that's it. Abe at Smoke Inn, Jeff at Corona, Dave at Two Guys. They listen to what their customers are asking for. So if you enjoy the cigars, or like I said, definitely let your tobacconist know. I'm like, hey, I really like this cigar, and maybe they'll give them a shot. So, all right, we'll see everybody back next Monday. Will be another episode of the Puff and Ponder podcast, and hopefully we'll see everybody in a few weeks on another I Tap That cigar show. Everybody have a great evening.